Hey, how are you? I hope you're doing well. I'm sending you love. I had a great day. I just talked to Colin and he's doing well. I had a dream that was unsettling about him, and so I wanted to check in. Not that anything would be wrong, but sometimes those things stick with you and you just want to make sure. Um, but he's doing well, and I sent him love too. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about yesterday before I lead into the message because it's kind of an overlap. I had been praying, and I've told you guys in previous videos, I had been praying and fasting for removal of blockages, for forward movement, and I don't just mean blockages in movement. I pray about blockages within me, things that I haven't addressed yet, things that haven't come to the surface, that even if your shadow work is never done, ever done, even when you think you're done, there's things hiding in the nooks and crannies that haven't been brought to the surface, that haven't been triggered, that you haven't worked on yet. So even if you work your butt off doing shadow work, it is never done. We're all works in progress forever. That's why we come here. So it's never done. So yeah, in praying for that, you better be ready because be careful what you wish for. You're gonna get it. The Lord will send you things that will trigger that raw emotion, to trigger those memories of things that you not only happened to you, but the things that came up for me yesterday were things. A small part of it was things that happened to other people, and a big part of it that made me cry for at least an hour uncontrollably, like out of nowhere, was like smacks me in the face, and I was like, okay, I guess this is something that I need to deal with. And there were many layers to that, but yeah, you got to be like a shortstop when you pray for things like that, because it's going to come to you out of nowhere. The things that you haven't addressed yet that you need to, if you pray for it, especially, it's going to be like, bam, all right, you asked for it, here you go. And it's a good thing. You wanted that, right? So be ready for it. I always use baseball analogies because shortstop very much applies to that. They're arguably one of the most important positions. And I used to play the opposite of that before they made you, outside of Little League, when you start going into fast pitch and the coaches don't pitch for you anymore. I played the opposite, in between first and second, and they called it in betweener, and it gets as much action as shortstop, and I think they should have it all the time. I'm partial, but then I moved from where that was in the field to the outfield, and I played there. So it's a lot harder to play that position from the outfield than it is the infield. But anyway, shortstop is the captain of the infield. They get more. I guess that's why that position has to go away, because most things in that area are to the shortstop position. So they have to be very agile. They have to be very fast. They have to have a lot of range. And when you pray for things, you got to be like a shortstop, because boy, is it going to come to you. And I'm not talking about your desires. God already knows what's in your heart. Sometimes desires that you pray for are not always what you need. So unanswered prayers are some of the best gifts, because we don't always need everything that our heart desires. So the Lord is very selective on that. He knows what's best for you. So I'm not talking about desires. I'm talking about things that you pray for growth. And it's coming to me. So yesterday, what I was thinking about, I started off with generational curse breaking, because of the contemplation about the tree and as above, so below. But after I did that message, shadow work smacked me in the face because I immediately thought of a time that I witnessed abuse with a person. And that person, I was they were aware of me witnessing this abuse, and they immediately looked to me for help. And they might even, my memory's fuzzy because I've tried to block this out, but it needed to come up so I could address it. But I think they may even have called to me for help. And I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. And I don't want to start crying again because Lord knows I tried to feel all of those feelings and work on that, unpack it a little bit. And in unpacking that, I felt the horror within that person. I felt their feelings. I felt the look on their face. I saw the redness in their face. I saw the look of panic and ask for assistance in their eyes with their body language. And I couldn't believe that I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. I might even have justified it. Honestly, I've tried to block it out. But I cried and cried and cried about that because how could I? How could I be such an advocate for stopping those things in your own life and have waited so long to do something about it, and having seen it so blatant in my awareness, in my consciousness, that I did nothing at the time, ever at all. I did nothing about it. Now, doing nothing about it for yourself is a different story, but when you could have helped someone else and you did nothing, that needed to come to the surface so that I could address it. And in addressing it, I did reconcile it with the fact that I have changed a lot, that I have done something for myself and others by standing up to abuse and being a generational curse breaker and calling things out when they're not right, even if it's very uncomfortable and people don't like you for doing it. That's how I reconciled it, because you have to be compassionate not only to others but to yourself. You have to love yourself first. That and your love for God and that connection with God has to be the foundation. When things have fallen apart, should be the foundation anyway, but we're not all raised that way. Very few of us are raised that way. So if you rebuild your foundation, make sure that exists first and foremost. You fill your own cup. You love yourself. You have compassion and forgiveness for yourself, for the less evolved you that might have done things they're not proud of, but at least it's coming to the surface so that you can feel all those feelings and that you're not stuffing it down or numbing yourself to not anymore, because you probably did for years, which is why it's so hidden and stuffed way down in the first place. So I'm grateful for that moment, even though I was like, what the hell is this? Why have I been crying nonstop? But yeah, I'm glad it came up because I'm not that person anymore. But it helped me to evolve to this person, because in seeing that and then not knowing my worth and not loving myself, I allowed it to go on for years to me. I allowed it in that moment to go on for someone else. And I have to forgive myself, because if I had known then what I know now, it wouldn't have happened. But because it happened, I am aware. I would not make that decision again. But I have taken steps to be the person that will. I am the person that will. I am. That, and then another thing, I was thinking about me and a friend of mine that I had during high school, how this is not related to the message, but this just, I don't want to say everything that I'm dealing with is related to this message. And it's this and nothing else. It's not. Shadow work is never done. I was thinking about um, a friend of mine. We were so territorial about our friend group that if someone brought a newcomer around, that we would gang up and bully this person and make them feel not wanted, and we will be proud of ourselves for that. The person that I am today is disgusted by those moments from the past and how I reveled in it at the time, and it is something I would never do to someone now. And I'm very sorry to have done that to anyone. I'm sorry to have acted that way because I don't want to make anyone feel that way, and I know that I did. And I have to reconcile that as well. So, shadow work, shadow work, shadow work, shadow work. Pray for blockages to be removed. Pray for anything that is stuffed down that you haven't dealt with yet, that isn't in your consciousness, it isn't in your peripherals even. It's still there and it needs to come out. So, pray for it and then be ready. Be ready. So yeah, today's message, I wanted to talk about having unconditional love, and I've also talked a lot about narcissistic abuse in general, codependency, abandonment. I haven't talked about nihilists, but someone I was listening to earlier was talking about nihilists, and that is important too. Big Lebowski was my favorite movie for a long time, and it talks about nihilists nonstop, and I'm like, oh, that was a theme happening around me, and I didn't even know it. I didn't even look deeper and broaden my perspective and understand what a nihilist is. It's not just a tagline or a buzzword. It was actually prevalent in my life. I just didn't know it. But so nihilist, for anyone that doesn't know, so you don't have to search it, believes life is meaningful, rejects religion, often no loyalty to anything, has the impulse to destroy, loves chaos, has no morals, basically the opposite of an empath. And if you're into tarot, it would be the Hierophant reversed. So there you go. Nihilism. But anyway, I was listening to someone yesterday. Her name's Crystal Ray. She also has a book called Love Letters to the Soul, which I do plan on reading, but I want to give credit to anything that inspires me. But she was talking about unconditional love and how if you tell someone about an apple, this is how she described it, and I thought it was genius. If you tell someone about an apple without giving it to them, then they can't touch, feel, taste, do anything with their senses. You can draw them a picture of it. You can show them a photo. You can give them the chemical breakdown of an apple. You can write them a poem about it. But until they experience it for themselves, they'll never know. They'll never know. And they'll think, well, it's so easy for you to say, but not easy for me to do. And no, it's not easy to do, but you can do it. You can go within and you can feel that unconditional love. You can draw it from various sources to help you get in touch with that as well. But you have to put action behind it. You can want to cook. You can collect cookbooks and recipes for years and not ever actually put the action behind it and cook any of those things. And that just makes you a collector. So be a cook, not a collector. You have to put it into action, and then you will know what I'm talking about, and you will realize that it is everything. Unconditional love is everything. So I want to explain how, even in doing those videos, in my walk with God, in my evolution, in my quest for enlightenment, that it's very important still to, yes, have love, unconditional love for your abusers, for narcissists, to anyone that has hurt you. That's how you reconcile your trauma. That's how you heal. If it holds you back by still letting it hurt you from the past, if you bring it into your now by feeding it and thinking about it on the daily or ever as a negative connotation and something that you didn't put in your life on purpose, then it'll hold you back from moving forward in the future. You'll be afraid to open your heart and be receptive to love from other people. This in no way, I'm not telling you to go back to any of those people. I'm telling you how to look at it objectively so that you don't continue the cycle, stay in the cycle, go back to the cycle. Don't feed it, don't sync up with it. That's not what I'm saying. I still mean everything that I said from the past videos. It's just a way to love them still, to keep them in the collective of loving everybody unconditionally, because that may be hard. That's going to be really hard for you to pray for your enemies, to love someone that's hurt you. Sometimes really, really, really bad, to love them unconditionally still, to love them anyway. Because I don't want you to hold on to that, and I don't want it to hinder you from moving on or not opening your heart to the vibrational match of the healed you that you deserve, because it will come. So you can't hold on to those things. You have to love them still, also unconditionally, like you love yourself, like you love God, like you love anyone else. You have to, or it's going to be poison to you, not anyone else, to you. So in doing your shadow work, that's going to be one of the hardest things to reconcile. And I've worked on that, and I feel like I have successfully checked that off my list, and I want to share with you how I did that, and to encourage you all to keep putting in the work, keep moving forward, do not stop, don't get complacent. There's always work to do. So be objective, remove the meanings. I've talked about Kill Bill before, and how I'm not Beatrice Kiddo, and that would be God if anybody were her, that it's just a movie. But it made me think about the quote when doing my shadow work on loving abusers and taking off that label of abuser, of narcissist, not because that keeps you stuck. You're identifying with it. That's how it keeps hurting you. So you have to remove the meaning and then reshape it to mean that that's another soul, that we love each other. We still love each other. It's not an active love. You may not be in each other's life. That was bad for you. Stop feeding the cycle. It may end with you when you're not feeding the cycle between you and that person, and they may move on to another supply, but that's none of your business. You do your part to heal yourself, because you're responsible for your healing, no one else. And that person, if they're not aware, they have no self-awareness of what they're doing to themselves and others while they're in that cycle with whomever they're in, they're not going to want to change, and they have to want to change. You may have clinged to a narcissist because you had been raised by a narcissist, and so you thought that's what you deserved. That was familiar territory, comforting territory to you. You knew how to deal with that. Or a fear of abandonment, or you thought because you trauma bonded with this person that you could love them so hard that you could love them out of it, not realizing your worth, and that they were feeding off you the whole time, and the whole time that you stay around, it fuels that fire, it fuels that cycle, it keeps going, you're going to keep syncing up with it. So you have to end it. Just like the generational curse, you have to end it. It ends with you, so that your son or daughter for the next generation doesn't see narcissism or abuse and think, oh, that's normal. I'm going to connect that with love. Abuse is love. Okay, this is what I deserve. That's my worth. No. Let that die. Let that die. Stop feeding it. Stop being the supply for an abuser. Recognize it for what it is. It's also going to mirror back to you if you've trauma bonded with somebody, the work that you need to put into yourself, because there's a reason that you attracted that. There's a reason that you also ended up in that cycle. So don't victimize yourself. Don't victim blame. We are all beings here. We all love each other. We signed up for this. Maybe I was that to this person in a past life. Maybe we agreed, hey, you do it to me, and then I'm going to do it to you, and this is how we're going to learn. Okay, deal? Deal. See you down there. Think of it that way. But you still love each other. All these things, you signed up for it on purpose. You had to go through that to learn the lessons that you needed to learn in this lifetime. Point blank, period. That's all there is. You can believe whatever you want to believe. That's the beautiful thing about God. He doesn't require you to love him as our creator. If you're an atheist, if you're agnostic, if you are a nihilist and you don't believe nihilism and atheism, they overlap. You don't have to love him. He doesn't require you to love him. He's going to love you anyway. So that's how he wants you to love others. Love them anyway. Let them believe whatever they want to believe. That's the beautiful thing about us learning these lessons here on Earth School. That you're not required to do anything. You don't have to reach your checkpoints. You don't have to deliver anything. You can be down here in low vibrations all you want. When you're tired of it, you'll stop. But you have to want to stop. You have to want that. It has to start with you and you loving yourself. And in loving yourself, you'll have the self-awareness. The shadow work will bring all of those things, not only that was done to you that you need to let go, but a lot of things that you did to other people, because none of us are perfect. We've all hurt other people, lots, before you come to that point of unconditional love for yourself. No matter how much you want to say, they did this to me and they did that to me, you in turn have done a lot of things to other people and you justified it because of the hurt that you had inside, because of what other people did to you, but it happened on purpose so that you could learn how it felt to be hurt, that you could realize because of that or for no reason at all, you hurt somebody else and that wasn't right either. So let's unpack those things. Let's feel them in their intensity because they matter. Everything you've thought, everything you've done, every reaction that you've had, it all matters. It all compiles you. It brings you together like a tapestry. Oh, I brought that. That came to mind earlier and I was like, awesome. Tapestry. It reminds me of the song Details in the Fabric by Jason Mraz because I love that song. Go check it out. It is very, very deep. That's why I like him. He's pretty deep. He's not out here trying to write songs that just make people happy. He's bringing up raw emotion in his songs. He gets very deep. But Tapestry, I looked it up just so I could tell you. Pictures, designs formed by weaving colored threads. Also intricate or complex combination of things or sequence of events, your memories, emotions, they shape you. They all shape you. Also, tapestries can be reversed. So where you might see something very ugly on this side, you can turn it around and it might be something very beautiful on the other side. We're trying to get to that other side. Stop placing labels and meanings to things and appreciate them for the lessons they are. Appreciate people. No matter what happened between you, whether you deem it good or bad, don't label it good or bad. It was just a thing that happened to you. It happened on purpose to shape you, to help you learn so that you can evolve and level up so that you don't stay stuck there. You have to realize what it was and appreciate it for what it was and not label it good or bad. It just was what it was and it happened for a reason. So thank you. Show gratitude towards that because it helped you move on. It helped you not stay stuck there. It helped you appreciate the next thing even more. It made you proud that you learned from that and you didn't go back to it and stay stuck in the past by feeding it, keeping it going with that person or another person that's just the same thing in a different body, because that's what you're going to attract if you think that's what you're worth. You're vibrating at that level. If you haven't put in the work, you're still vibrating. That's your vibrational match. So it's going to walk in looking, smelling, potentially you think it's acting like something else, but that's just a mask. And it'll fall off eventually and you'll see that that person is a carbon copy of the other person in a different body. because that's what you think you deserve. And whether you know it or not, if you don't change and do your shadow work, you're going to keep calling that in. That's your fault. That's you. That's energy. Everything is energy. Energy vibrates. It sets off a frequency. It emits a frequency. If you are vibrating at that level, you cannot say, oh, this person, that person. There's no victim. You did it to yourself. You did it to yourself by not loving yourself, by not going within and doing the work. So you're going to keep bringing that back in. That's why you have to do the work to get out of that. You don't have to stay in that painful place. You don't have to. It's up to you to do the work and raise your vibrations so that your frequency is what you attract in other people, because you loved yourself enough to say, I'm done. I'm sick of it. Complaining isn't going to help. Moving to a different person isn't going to help. None of that helps. It's just Groundhog's Day. It's the same thing. It's a broken record. Round and round you go. You want nobody to blame for that but yourself. So, anyway, Beatrix Kiddo, she says, could you do what you did? Of course you could. But I never thought you would or could do that to me. In loving your abuser, you have to stop that kind of thinking. It's not personal. It could be you, it could be anybody, unless they're self-aware and they put in the work to stop what they're doing to themselves and others. And it's themselves too. They may not be aware of it, but they're hurting themselves too. These people are covering up the pain. They're not only hurting other people, but they're covering up the pain with drugs and alcohol, with sexual promiscuity, with buying things that they think will make them happy, feeding the ego. It's insatiable. You cannot satisfy it. There's no what's the word I'm looking for? There's no contentment in that. There's never contentment there. It's unrest. It may satisfy it temporarily, but it's all a temporary fix. It's all a band-aid. So if they are abusing you, they're abusing themselves too. And unless they're aware and they want to start loving themselves and loving everybody else, they're just going to move on to a different supply. Just like you keep attracting those same people, they're going to keep searching and attracting those same people. So they're going to have another you in a different body, because that's what they want. They've signed up for it by not doing the work and raising their vibrations. They're just going to keep trying to feed their ego. They're going to keep covering up those band-aids until God throws down a card and makes them change, slaps them in the face with, okay, enough, that's enough. You've hurt yourself enough. You haven't stopped the cycle yourself, so I'm going to stop it for you. Full stop. This is where I've said enough. And you signed up for that too. So you have to stop making it personal. Stop identifying with it. It can't hurt you or keep you stuck in the past or afraid to move on if you call a spade and you stop pretending, you stop covering it up, you stop acting like it is something that it isn't. They are going to hurt you. They're going to hurt someone else. They're going to keep hurting themselves over and over and over, just like they hurt their partner. So you have to take the labels off of it. Stop identifying with it. It's not personal. These are all just lessons that we signed up to learn, no matter what it looks like. It's still just a piece of you learning their own lessons in a different body. You're doing it to each other on purpose so that you can learn. It all happened on purpose. No accidents, no coincidences. I was trying to combine those words, I guess, and make a new word. But, yeah, it's very important to not take it personal, to remove yourself from the cycle, no contact, If you have children, minimal contact. Um, if they're not ready to be self-aware and be working on it, then it doesn't have to include you. Let them do that with someone else until they're tired of it and they want that change for themselves as well. And you have to want it too. Everybody has to want it. Everybody has to want it. Even if God smacks you in the face and he says full stop, you can still go back to it and keep hurting yourself and keep staying stuck. You can do that too. God doesn't require you to love him, even if he brings you to your knees and he says, even if you hear his voice, because I heard someone talking on another video about how they came about their spiritual awakening was because they were saying, F God, I hate you, God. And that's when God came to them. And he made a decision. He made a choice. He had to want it still. He didn't have to start believing in God. He didn't have to change his life. He still could have gone on hating God or thinking that God didn't exist or that was a figment of his imagination or whatever happened in his life was a coincidence. He didn't have to wake up at that moment. He could have gone right back and reverted to his low vibrating self. But he didn't because he wanted to help others with how he came to that realization that co-creating with Source, loving himself and loving everyone else enough to share that with them so that they can stop hurting themselves, that was his purpose, that we all have a purpose. We're all meant to love and learn and move up, all of us. I've also learned that in being objective about the abuser, that it's helpful to identify in yourself and to others how your growth was stunted by said abuse. How that time in your life, that arrested development occurs because you're not working on it. That it has impacted so many things, so many people, so many things, like the butterfly effect. Anything that you do just echoes out into consciousness. It once you send it on its way, like I said, energy does what it does. It doesn't need your permission. So the smallest change, the smallest word, the smallest action can affect so many things. So many things. So be aware of that. Be aware that even the smallest exchange between someone could have stopped them from killing themselves. It could have helped them to decide. It could have been the tipping point that said, yeah, I'm tired of this. I'm going to kill myself. It could have done a lot of things. So choose wisely. It's all about choosing love for yourself and others. So be very aware and conscious of even the smallest exchanges. Be nice, be kind to everyone because it makes that much of a difference. It makes a huge difference, no matter how small and insignificant it might seem. So don't stay stuck. If you realize that, if you truly unpack that as part of your shadow work, like I, for instance, used to keep things in recognizing that I was part of the cycle and I wasn't a victim. I wasn't ever a victim. I did this to myself and it was mirrored back to me, things that had happened to myself. Like I used to love stuffed animals and I still have a couple. It's mainly because of the bond between a soul tie and me. Another being that is also interested in that. So we share that. It's a common interest between me and another being. But I used to keep them and I still locked away from me in my belongings at my uncle's. If it's even still there, I don't even know. I don't care. I'm not attached to these things anymore. But so it can't hurt me, right? It can't hurt me that any of those things were taken away. I don't have them. I used to hold on to stuffed animals, like my favorite one, puppy love. And then I had a pillow that was in the shape of a strawberry because I used to love strawberry shortcake and I had all of that stuff. So it was a time created very much nostalgia for me, a time where I felt um, comfortable. It was before a loss of innocence. It reminded me of a safer time, a less complicated time. It would instantly take me back to the feeling that I had when I was the age of loving said things, items. I had an attachment to those things because the nostalgia of it reminded me of being safe because I hadn't worked on things. That being needing that feeling of safety, even from nostalgia, tells you that if you need to feel safe, then obviously you're not feeling safe right now. You're in fear. You're in fear. You're letting those things control you, control your life, or you wouldn't need the nostalgia from those things. You wouldn't be holding on to those things dearly or placing so much importance on them and unable to let them go if they didn't remind you of something that you felt like you still needed that you don't have right now. So it could be a coping mechanism for you to still have those things, to let the feeling, the emotions that you get from having those things around still take you back to a time that you need to help you feel safe. So the trauma bonding is the same as that. You're self-inflicted that you're choosing that. Don't choose the trauma. Choose to unpack it. Recognize these things for what they are. Not triggers are not always bad. Triggers can be triggers of something that you need to fix in way of something that made you feel good. And if you need that to make you feel good still, then obviously you're stuck in a place of pain and feeling not safe. So if you need to recreate that warmth, that happiness, that contentment by holding on to things, my uncle had an obsession. I don't know, I'm not in contact with him, but he was the soul tie of mine, so I need to stop calling him a family member. He's another being here that I learned a lot of things from, and he was very much attached to trains. And I feel like I've done a video on this before, but it is blocked. I know for a fact that one is. But he identified with trains. They were very nostalgic for him, and he put a lot of money into it. And I believe that's because of the feeling that he got of safety. It took him back to a time where he felt in control, and that had been taken from him. And the nostalgia and the collection, the obsessive collection of this thing made him feel safe. It made him feel control. It made him feel content. But he couldn't stop collecting them. He wasn't able to let that go because he wasn't addressing his traumas. So when you see yourself doing these things, when you see other people doing these things, know that that's how far. Don't blame them. Don't reciprocate hate or even throw that out there if you're not in contact with them by feeding it and letting it live on. Know that that's how far away from love that they are on the spectrum. That's how many layers are built up inside of them that keeps them from working on themselves, that keeps them from loving others, that keeps them from remembering why they came here in the first place, because they're stagnant. They're stuck. They're stuck in that place of hurt. So nothing productive can come from that except producing more hurt. So don't hate on them for that. Don't call yourself a victim or say I was victimized. Because if you learned your lesson and you stepped away and they're still stuck there, they're just you. They're you from a day or two ago. They're you from last year. They're you from years ago. Whoever you were when you were in that place of not loving yourself and loving others and doing the shadow work, they're just you in a different body. They're just you. Someplace that you're not in anymore, a place that you hopefully don't go back to ever again. That's where they are. And it's okay. Everybody's on a different path. We're all learning at different times. They may never come out of it. It's not your business, but they were a lesson for you and you learned the lesson. You have to see it like that. Also, the lady that had wrote the book, The Crystal Ray, she had also said that this was something that she said to people. Because being an empath or realizing these things and fixing them in yourself, you could be, you could turn codependent. You could be a people pleaser in the way that you still think that you can fix people instead of just sharing your knowledge and putting it out there, that you could still want to cast your pearls before swine. You could still want to be a fixer and think that you could love them, because unconditional love doesn't mean loving someone to death. They have to want it. So no matter how much you love them, no matter how much you say you love everybody unconditionally, if you are still throwing yourself under that bus, if you are still not filling your own cup first and filling the cups of others with the overflow, if you are casting your pearls before swine, you're still going to get hurt because you are identifying with it. So you have to be very objective in your approach when you're trying to help others or educate them, because they have to want it. And she said something to this effect: I realize this about them, their pain, their trauma. I'm sorry for what happened to you that was out of your control, but you really did choose this. And if you realize that, then you could learn and grow like you're supposed to, so that you can heal, so that you can remember that at a soul level. That's what we want, by loving everyone, even if they hurt us, to remember at a soul level why you love them, why you chose this, why this happened. Not beat yourself up about it, not beat them up about it, and forgive. Forgive and love yourself and love them anyway, so that you can get to a place of I am unconditional love. I am oneness with everyone, with God and everyone. That's where we want to be. So you have to take the labels off. You have to stop thinking it's personal. You have to be objective to love them anyway. But you really did do this to each other on purpose. It's part of the plan. Learn from it and keep going. I love you. God loves you. You're never alone. I'll see you later. Bye, guys.